You looking cute today? God, I really just wasted film on that. You're still cute though, don't get me wrong. So I took a month-long break from Blender to learn about photography, and surprisingly I learned more about Blender than photography. It made me realize that Blender, along with all of its other uses, is a software that mimics a camera in a digital space. And the more you learn about cameras in the real world, the more you understand what Blender's trying to do in the digital world. So this is why you need to learn photography to become a better artist in Blender. So I initially became interested in photography because I wanted a higher quality camera with less grain to take VFX shots with. And don't get me wrong, you can shoot VFX on your phone, it's just I have a 4-year-old Samsung phone. It works really well for everything else, but the picture department, not the best, so I decided to get a camera. The camera I ended up getting was the EOS 250D, also known as the Canon Rebel SL3, and it's a starter camera, but make no mistake, this thing can shoot some clean photos and videos, and was really perfect for what I wanted to do. The camera you saw in the intro is my dad's old film camera, the Canon AE1 program. So I started to experiment with both my cameras and then learned terms about photography and just art in general. I realized that Blender has a lot of photography terms that I didn't realize were photography terms until I started using the cameras. I thought they were just strange terms for settings that you could mess around with and make your render look good. One of those terms was f-stop. F-stop is a way to control the amount of light going into your camera via the aperture. The aperture is all those little blades in front of the lens that open up and close down. I'll probably have a picture on screen now of what it looks like. The f-stops in cameras affect two things. One being the exposure of the image and how much light actually gets to reach the sensor or the film. The other is the depth of field, which is another photography term that's used in Blender. For example, in Blender, I can make this cube very sharp and focused and then make all the background blurry, and in real life I can do that with a camera too, if I just have a low enough f-stop. Now in the real world, the larger the aperture, the more depth of field in the scene, and in Blender it's the same thing. The only annoyance being that aperture is measured in f-stops, and the lower the f-stop, the higher the aperture, which is very dumb and I still don't understand that, but hey, that's the way it is. But the point I'm trying to make is you understand how these terms relate to each other and how photography terms can be used in Blender. So here are a bunch of other terms in photography that helped me understand exactly what was going on with Blender, and the settings when I adjusted them, how that would tweak my Blender render. Now terms relating to Blender isn't all photography has helped me with either. Let's talk about some basics. Now Blender is really interesting when it comes to the basics because you can take a picture with a camera and it can be super overexposed and everybody would think the picture is garbage, but you could do the same thing with Blender. You could make a render of something super overexposed, but the render could be awesome and nobody cares that it's overexposed because the render is so cool if there's lots of moving things and cool parts in it. So Blender can kind of ignore the basics, but it's very important to still have the basics in your renders and in your scenes. Things I've been picking up in my college classes like a little color theory and compositions will make your scenes look a lot better, and they're things that you can practice in the camera almost easier than with Blender, because with a camera you can shoot anything around you. From Blender you have to start scratch with the scene. Now I'm sure you can do a lot with the default cube, however it's way easier to take a camera and take a picture of something than to make a scene. So for example, here in this shot I have the red car and the green grass. Since red and green are on the opposite side of the color wheel, they're complementary, making the scene pop and making you unconsciously think that the scene looks better. Ian Hubert, the Blender God, uses this concept in a lot of his scenes, such as blue and teal and green and red. Composition is important when using a camera because your scene should be easily readable and convey information that you want to convey to the audience. Let's use this picture I took as an example. Now, although I'm happy with the colors in this image and how it turned out, I didn't keep the composition in mind when I was taking the picture. Instead of keeping more of the protesters in my frame, I got the side of the house which nobody's really interested in. With proper composition through some cropping, I can tell the story of the image with less confusion and unnecessary information. Man, that was a short video. I thought I had more in the script. Well, regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Even if you can't buy a camera, that's okay. Most of you are probably watching this on a device that has a camera, and if you can use your camera phone, that's cool too. So I encourage you, go outside, film a street. These kids in Africa made a whole VFX film based off of a green screen and a cracked phone that they filmed everything on. You know, anything is possible if you want to do it, and if you keep a positive mindset, that's the best thing you can do even if you're in an unfortunate situation. Chances are if you're watching this video, you're probably already fortunate, and that's something to smile about. So on that note, as always, thank you so much for watching today. Hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of your week even, and I'll see you guys in the next video.